is Nina Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for watching. This show was created to discuss life topics and hopefully challenge and transform your thinking. So today I had to have this very special person here with me, and her name is Elena Jackson. And she is a licensed professional counselor and a licensed mental health counselor. And she has a practice called Coaching and Counseling in Connecticut. We are here today to talk about mental health in the midst of difficult situations and more poignant, like the time we are in right now. So Elena, thank you so much for agreeing to Zoom with me since we have to do social distancing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And
You're
I just
welcome.
wanted you to first start with just letting people know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So let's see, there's so much to say. So I'm married to my partner, the coach. So he and I, we work together. We have this practice and we've sort of made it separate, but we're working very closely together in these days, sharing space. I'm originally from New York. I've had my practice there for just under 10 years before coming here. Along with being a counselor, I'm a certified anxiety professional. So that means that this is absolutely my passion and where I dedicate making sure that I'm up on everything that is most up to date and what we're learning about the body, anxiety, how it all fits together. Let's see, some other fun things. I knew I wanted to be a counselor when I was 8 years old. It has radically changed my life. I absolutely believe in counseling and coaching being one of the major tools that we're gifted with in life to be able to enhance our experience here, our relationships, our goals, our inner being. It's absolutely a passion of mine. You'll see, because I'll get really chatty.
Yeah, but the thing is you knew that at 8? That's
Yeah.
awesome. Most of us don't know what the heck we're doing at 40. Okay, so that's really great. So this is your calling. This is what you feel comfortable in, right? This is your space.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's really, what you're doing, especially, being a professional in anxiety is something that is needed right now, right? So I wanted to start off with that because that is the elephant in everybody's room these days, right? So how have you found this time right now with COVID-19 to be especially difficult for people?
Wow. What I've found the most is that everyone's going through it and everyone's experience is different.
Yeah.
Each person, even within our own homes, but that's what I think has made this time especially difficult. In the way that we feel like we're relating to people, yet our story is so personal, our story is so different. How do we talk to someone else about something that we feel like we're uniquely experiencing in a greater whole? I think we've lost a sense of all the things that we've strived for, right? Whether that is, I wanted to work in this location, I want to live in this location because of what it provides for me. I wanted to work in Manhattan because I really love that place, right? I wanted to be around the hustle and bustle. Now we're not. If you're working in Manhattan, you're not going there. You're not commuting. I decided on the way that I was going to commute because it was the best fit for me. I wanted to drive because I wanted the opportunity to have that space and that control. But now you don't even have that time and that commuting that used to be maybe a drag, but also that time for yourself, right? We've also lost a sense of normalcy in the way that we've decided to create our lives because we thought this way would have been a great fit for us, along with just worrying about our health in the way that many of us hadn't experienced before. There was a sense of safety and well-being, maybe outside of flu season, maybe outside of the allergies of that season for you, but a new sense of, am I safe in this body? That's something. Are my loved ones safe in their body in the way that we've not worried about them before? So these are some of the things that I think make this particular time unique and taxing.
Yeah, and you're right with the way you started it, is that we're all in this, all of us, the whole world actually.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so we are feeling those things. And so I wanted to talk to you about some of the signs that are not as obvious, right, as feeling sad or worried. Right. So you had some really great points when me and you were talking about that there are other emotions that are coming out and other things that are coming out during this time. So I wanted you to kind of touch on that a little bit because you talked a little bit about hypervigilance, right? So
Yes.
I wanted you to dive a little bit into a little bit of hypervigilance and letting us know what that is and what people are feeling, irritability, things like that.
Yes.
So let's dive into those a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I love bringing this up because one of the things is that we don't always say feeling words. We may not have a counselor for a wife and a coach for a husband where the feeling words are just running throughout your home. Sometimes you're just noticing
Hmm.
what's going on with myself, or noticing the people that we are with right now, the family members that we're living with. So hypervigilance is so important to think about because we notice it within ourselves when everything begins to feel a little bit more risky. We begin to very, very much doubt the safety of things that we hadn't been doubting before. And it doesn't feel like worry all day, doesn't feel like anxiety all day. It feels sharp and in the moment. And we feel as though we're being rational about it. That's the thing that's the most tricky to be able to explain. I'm feeling hypervigilant. You're feeling what you're actually connecting to is the thought of why you think something's risky. You're really connecting to the thought of why all of a sudden we're only going to do this way of bringing, let's say, groceries in or whatever have you. In this moment, we're hearing so many types of precautions that are available on different systems to make sure that we're safe. I'm finding that has been much more easily identified than I'm worried. It's more, nope, I'm going to do this and that and the third, and I have to because this is the way.
Right.
This is the way I'm going to reduce the risk for me and my family. Who doesn't want to protect themselves and their family? But I just wanted to note that sometimes this is actually really important for us to tune into and to communicate to someone we trust, if you want. And I'm sure we're going to get into so many different ways, but
Yeah.
let it out, let it out somehow, even
Yeah.
to yourself or in prayer, however you can express this. These are the types of thoughts that are going to fester and become something bigger. And irritability, I'm thinking of so many times we could be put in the same situation and be much more calm, much more understanding, much more patient. But today is just not the day. You're
Right.
thinking to yourself, I'm not sad, I'm not worried, but God, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
And you're really thinking like, I don't have it today. I don't have the motivation. I don't have the interest. And truthfully, everything feels harder. My body feels heavier and these tasks feel even less enjoyable and I'm over it.
Mm-hmm.
That is another way that maybe we won't say sad, maybe we won't say angry, or maybe you just notice it when you walk into the room. We all know those that we're living with, most likely family members or roommate we've had for a long time. You can just feel the irritability. It has an energy that can fill up a room. So
Yeah.
it's another thing to say, someone may not be sharing with you with words that they're sad, but let's pay attention to other things so that we know someone we're living with and our personal selves, we're going through something.
That's good. And, I think that irritability can also come with a lot of restlessness, right? I mean,
Yes.
you just, most of us are not in the house all the time,
Right.
right? We usually have an event to go to, the store to go shopping at, we have like a park we can go walk in.
Yeah.
And, now you're right. I mean, you're hyper vigilant, right? So you're worried about walking. And if you do, not too close,
Right.
like that. So the irritability, I think, for me comes with the restlessness. Like I feel restless, like I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I gotta do something, so
Yes, and that's the exact feeling. No one would say, "Oh, I'm anxious." No one
right.
would say that in that moment. We're going to say, "Oh, I just need to move." I find myself walking from room to room. I don't have anything to do. I just know and somehow I want something to spark me that interest. Yet we absolutely know it is restlessness when nothing seems appealing.
Mm,
There's just a sense of and there's energy within me that needs to get let out. But what we know from psychology is that energy is actually a sense of uh, it is either being worried or it is being sad, and it's going in there, right? It's circulating,
yeah.
and that's why tasks don't feel as enjoyable when you're restless.
Right. And I think that a lot of things that cause you to be restless, especially for me in the beginning, was not sleeping and
Yes.
all of those thoughts, racing thoughts, right? Just constant thoughts. And another thing I've been experiencing, and few people I've spoken to, is fatigue. You
Oh,
know, like it's
yeah.
funny because you feel restless, but at the same time, you feel very fatigued. And it's like, okay,
It seems like it shouldn't go together, but I want to let
yeah,
you know that
yeah,
there's already a rhyme out there that means that this happens to people. It's called tired and wired. So
wired.
whenever we can find a cliche for something that means we get it. We all know what it's like.
Yeah,
It seems weird, but it's real. But that fatigue is real, right? That
yeah.
fatigue, it might be emotional exhaustion, right? So I'm thinking about that time that you're talked about. Oh yeah, in the beginning, my thoughts were racing. Well, your thoughts automatically will have an effect on your emotions. No one thinks of a thought that is worrisome, and worry doesn't fill our body.
Mm,
Worry is exhausting. It is an exhausting experience on your body to be able to regulate once it's filled with it.
right.
And let's add in it's hard to sleep when our thoughts are saying, wait, one more thing. Oh, and then another thing.
Yeah.
Just kidding, four more things before the end of the night. You're not
Yes.
going to get to sleep on time, and your rest is just not going to be as deep. You'll probably stay in light sleep, which is good. It is good, but it isn't really recovery.
Right. I
So
guess
it's all
where the fatigue
combined.
is coming in. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Especially because, people in the norm already struggle with sleeping well and the racing
Yes.
thoughts, right? Because we're always worried about the next thing we have to do, the next
Right.
project at work, your children, whatever, your relationship, whatever have you. So,
Right.
and I think now compounded with, did I wipe that down? Did I wear my mask? Did I have
Right.
my gloves on?
Right.
Not having people come over when they say, "Oh, we'd like to drop by." Nope, nobody's dropping by. It's really something, huh? Like I've been
Yeah.
like really wanting to see my family and my cousins and stuff, and I'm like, no,
I
not
know.
doing that.
Yeah.
Especially because if you are somebody who's still working, right,
Hmm.
you are
Hmm.
worried now that you might take it to work. So you
Yes.
worry about that too. Yeah, it's a heavy load this time,
It
right?
is. It
Yeah,
is a heavy load. I
yeah.
know for myself, I missed my dad's birthday last night, and we're birthday buddies. Mine's coming right up. So we always have celebrated it together. And that was tough. That
Yes.
was really tough. And you just want to think to yourself, I can go. I
Yeah.
can go, right? I mean, I know I've been safe. But then that moment hits you again, and those thoughts start.
Yeah.
How would you be able to deal if you weren't okay? If you
Yeah.
just think you're okay?
I know. Yeah, that's another thought, right? Being somebody who is a carrier of something and don't
Yeah.
know it and can get someone ill. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing, right?
Yes.
So I know another thing you had mentioned, that you want people to look at as signs, that might be not so obvious, is like changing of eating habits,
Yes.
sleeping patterns, things like that. So maybe even uses of substances, right? Like maybe having a little too much wine every day when you were
Yeah.
only having it on the weekends. Yeah.
Right, right. We're thinking let's unwind, right? So picking up on the last thing you said, even with what I want people to look at is, why are you choosing to drink? Is it that restlessness feeling?
Yeah.
Is it that I've just felt so wound up, I want to relax tonight, and I'm looking for something to assist me with that, as
Mhm.
opposed to trusting your body in the moment to just be able, it's the end of the day, it can rejuvenate. It can do that.
Mhm.
It's a sign for us that you may not be tapped into, again, those emotions, sadness, worry. It's one other sign. Is it also contributing to why you're feeling fatigued throughout the day? If you were previously just a social drinker on the weekend, your body had so much time to recover.
Right.
And there's a lot of myths around what alcohol does to our bodies. It really is more taxing than we think.
Right.
And more bodies, it's more taxing than other bodies,
Right.
of course. So I would love to bring that to an understanding. And then also, again, not only for ourselves, but for someone else, if we're noticing that they're drinking more, but they're not expressing words like sadness and worry, there might be something there. So let's do the things that we can to help each other around that time. And eating patterns, we really mentioned sleep, so I'm not going to get too much more into that. But at least for sleep, I do want to mention, if you've noticed your time has your biological clock has shifted some, that's something to know for yourself, right?
Mhm.
Something to think about. Why? why am I postponing going to sleep? Right? Just check in with yourself, check in with a trusted person about these things. Why am I staying in my bed and not getting out? Why am I just laying here? Those are things you want to check in with yourself. And then with eating, are we now feeling so restless that now food has become one of the things that is a highlight of the day?
So good. Yeah.
It's so good. There's so many beautiful tasting things out there. And then also, are we so engulfed in what we're doing to avoid our feelings that we're also avoiding our body sensations like hunger?
Wow. That's good. That's good, Elena, because it's not things that people really are thinking about, right? Like,
Right.
we just want to get to the stage where we can all safely feel like we can go back out.
Yes.
But you're not thinking about, that's a very good point. I mean, that's something I'm going to be reflecting on myself is like, did my sleeping pattern change? It has actually dramatically.
Mm,
Going to sleep way later sometimes, and I'm like, what is going on here?
yeah.
The eating I've been trying to be better at because I'm an emotional eater as it is. So, so that is something I've been, because of your amazing husband
Oh,
who has given us like tools and tips on that,
yeah.
has been helpful. But you're right. I think most of us most of us that I've spoken to are saying things like, well, it's not like I can go out right now anyway, so might as well have that ice cream or might as well have that, and that's what's happening. And I think you're right. I think we almost feel defeated maybe. And that's why
Yes,
we're letting a lot of things, get in disarray.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard to feel empowered and defeated at the same time.
Hmm.
It's hard to feel capable of reaching a balanced, quote unquote, whatever balance looks like for you, systematic way of eating when you're starting from a place of this is already hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Really good.
tiny steps along the way, and a great accountability partner. And we all know that it might not be our husband or our wife that's the accountability partner. That's great by definition. Think thoughtfully about, who can I talk to about this?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
sometimes you give yourself the answer in your talking to someone else, which is beautiful too.
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the things, that you're bringing up with making sure we keep an eye on those things is important, because
Yes.
we, as all of us, are all praying and hoping for that this is not a super long-term type of living style.
Right.
Right? So at some point you have to go back to your normal life. And
Right.
this can really cause that to be very difficult to go back, right? I don't know
Yes.
how many days it is to create a pattern or habit, but I just know that if you start to create these really bad habits during these months that we're closed, or, doing this different social distancing thing, it's going to be even harder to get back into the role and back into your mode of operation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Commercially, they talk about it being 21 days, but psychology says it's actually 66 days. That might be the number that we're up to at this point. I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure. It feels like it's 166 days
Yeah, it
sometimes.
does. It does.
Um, but I want to bring something else up to mind for us is, how are we feeling when we're separating from the people that we live with? We're
Mm.
so used to being around more people who are working from home. Are we sensing a codependence type of feeling, like, oh, why are you going, where are you going,
Mhm.
when they leave the room, when they leave for, let's say, I don't know, for a walk in a safe isolated area, and they're leaving, there's a pattern, like you're mentioning, that's building around who we are around, who's creating safety with us, and what are we pairing safety with, and whom. So just conscientious of those sorts of things as well.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, it's things we don't think about. You
Yeah,
just kind of fall into patterns, right? And then you kind of
absolutely.
keep those patterns, and then you don't realize them. And I think that's a very good point. That codependency can be a very dangerous thing when you have a strong marriage that's more a little independent. Everybody knows that they do their
Right.
own things, but now you can't. And that's a very good point. I never thought of that. That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to you too about a lot of things that people are experiencing now, which is
Mm.
grief, right? There's a lot of
Yes.
grief going on too. I mean, I wanted you to touch on the different stages of grief,
Yeah.
because I
Absolutely.
think people are Just like I mentioned to you before we started this interview, is I had a friend who lost a father-in-law, and that's one sort of grief, right? And then
Right.
there's also, I think, this grief of losing your normalcy in life, your normalcy of every day, right? So I
Yeah,
just wanted you to kind of talk about grief.
absolutely. It's one of the major things that we are all experiencing this together. And to bring note that, like you mentioned, there are stages to grief, so that doesn't mean that we're all at the same stage, or we're
Right.
staying at the same stage at the same time. And I'd love to talk more about the differences in silence around some things. So, the first step is denial. So just because someone is happy-go-lucky around this time, or Corona's not going to hit us, right, or any kind of thing like that, I want you to know that that's their first place, right? That's their first defense mechanism.
Mhm.
Watch out for those people too. Don't try to argue them into recognizing what you recognize. They're going to get there, right? They may stick into that place a little bit longer. The next is anger. So it's denial and anger. They're not quite linear, but this is most commonly
Right.
experienced in this linear fashion. The next is anger, right? Are you kidding me? Right? Phrases like that. I cannot believe such and such.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What is going on feels unfair. We're hearing a lot of that, and we're thinking it's that people don't understand. But what it is, truthfully, is that they're beginning their process of grief. And we don't necessarily know what they are grieving, but it is happening
Mm-hmm.
for them. And so I say that so that we can have a sense of compassion and a real sense of insight around that. So we have anger, well, we have denial, we have anger, and then we have bargaining. That is, we'll notice that around where it's like, but okay, so, all right, so my family is going to be safe because I'm going to do all these regimens and we're going to keep precisely 6 feet. I'm going to think of an alligator and I'm going to keep that space around me at all times. It's that sense of like, if I do everything right and I begin to take control in that area, then on the other end of that bargain, my family and myself were safe.
Oh, wow.
And that is what you're seeing is going on. That person's experiencing grief too, but the words don't sound the same.
Right.
This is part of that process for them. So you have denial, we have anger, we have bargaining, we have sadness, right? That is much more identifiable,
Right.
right? This is hard. People are going to be saying things like that. I'm overwhelmed. We know one of the most biological things is just wet eyes, right? The eyes glazing over, feeling that sense of tearfulness at the drop of a hat, right? That's our most common. That's where we recognize we're like we can pinpoint our finger very easily and say, wow, this person's grieving.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong amount of time in that space. But this is the one where we most likely are going to spend the most intensity in. And that last stage, or well, psychology has changed. So the previously last stage was acceptance. Okay. Okay, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You hear phrases like that. This is how it is. Similar, just things of that nature. You're going to hear people saying things like, well, I'm going to make do. This is my new normal. What can I do around that? That's where we had played a lot in psychology and working people through and identifying and staying there. And from conference after conference after conference, we've said there's something on the other end. We're working with people. We know after a while, there's one more thing that someone goes through that is part of the grief journey, and that is finding meaning.
Mm.
What happened through here? And I want to be cautious that it's not everything happens for a reason.
Right.
It's you intentionally bringing to your awareness something positive amongst your pain. How did your pain bring you to a healing? What did healing bring for you? And that's part of that process here. Some of us are in that stage. Some of us have found meaning in this time and are saying, oh, my silver lining is, or at least in this time. But I want to just say something to caution people to be okay to find that meaning and be happy in that.
Mm-hmm.
while understanding that there's someone in a previous stage of grief nearby. All of our journeys look different. There's no amount of time. And just because you found a meaning does not mean that you're never going backwards into one of those ones.
I was just going to ask that. So it is normal then to find meaning, but then to go back to bargaining or
Right.
sadness and then go back to meaning, or right? It's normal.
Absolutely.
Okay, I was going to ask that because I think that most of us do jump through different stages when it comes to grieving, and I don't even know if we all call it grieving,
No,
really. Yeah.
no,
Sometimes it feels like more control, really, especially when you get to the bargaining,
oh,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah, and then you feel like you're in
Absolutely.
control. You got this,
Yes.
you know? Um,
Yes.
I never saw it as an actual process through the grieving process. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
interesting. And what a lot of people are going through right now. A lot of people, right?
Yes.
So basically, I know that you also talked about uh, different types of grieving, which I didn't even know about, which was kind of interesting. So anticipatory grief.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to spend some time definitely. So thank you for bringing that up again, because I wanted to spend some time sharing this. This is grief that we don't feel comfortable talking about.
Oh,
Um, so, okay, so anticipatory grief, right? This is really when you're beginning to feel the anxiety of something that you're assuming you're going to lose, but you did expect to have it. So I think a lot of our seniors, a lot of our graduates, before it was finalized, was going where they were going through anticipatory grief. What's the common response? Don't worry before you find out.
mm,
Right? So people get shut down a lot when they're experiencing that anticipatory grief. So they learn to be quiet. People tend to have a little bit of a superstition. I can't say it or else it'll happen. I don't want to talk about it. So people are going through different things.
wow.
Sometimes there, as we know, there's so many things that feel like COVID-19. We're going to go get tested, and then we have to wait the business days, and you get tested near the weekend. So now we have some weekend days that we have extended our waiting time.
Yeah.
And people want you to be positive. People want you to not, they don't want to feel it sometimes. Sometimes their cup is empty. So sometimes we can have anticipatory grief over our health during that period of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're worried about, well, what's our job going to look like? What will be different here?
Hmm.
And you don't even know what will be different necessarily, but we know what was normal. We know what was expected. So then it's in our head. It feels very much like anxiety, feels very much like worst case scenario thinking, and we're quiet about it. We're quiet about it because there's no facts around it. It's
Hmm.
just our guesses around it. So we wanted to bring that up and just kind of give a name to what people are feeling, and know that when we name it, it's because it's normal,
Yeah.
because we can relate. We've been there. Even the therapist that you're talking to, the coach that you're talking to, we know it.
Yeah.
It's human. It's just human emotions.
Yeah. So then that brings me to the next one, which is disenfranchised grief, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
that was yeah. So a loss that cannot be openly discussed due to a variety of stigmas.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, let's start with mental health stigmas.
yeah.
We have something in place in our business, so that way no person who is receiving services will be without, regardless of our health. Not everyone has the luxury to have those connections that we have. What if you haven't told anyone you were starting therapy, and
Right.
your therapist has become a caregiver or ill themselves? So you've lost someone special, but you don't want to talk about it, right? There's so many things. Let's say you're a college student coming back. Let's say or even a high school student, and there's been someone that you've felt a romantic connection with, but it hadn't quite developed. And maybe something about that romantic connection is a stigma within your family. Can't talk about it, but you've lost something. You've lost the connection.
Right.
And this is a very unsexy topic, but the idea that uh, extramarital and extra romantic relationships, they're happening a lot. It is is a high number. There are people that have lost their connection to the person that they actually have an emotional connection with. But now that they're home with their primary partner,
Wow.
they're grieving a loss that no one knows about, because we have to be silent about those things, because that relationship was formed under the understanding that it would be monogamous.
Right.
There are so many different kinds of it, but these are just some ones that if you're not quite sure why, maybe your teen or your high or your college student coming back is particularly sad about not going, check in. Was there a relationship you didn't quite know about?
Right. Right. Oh, that's deep. That's good.
Yeah,
So when we come back, I want to touch on a couple of more things and
right.
also want to talk about how to find meaning in all of this.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So don't you guys leave. We will be right back. This is Nina Perez at Straight Talk, and we have been talking to Elena Jackson, and we've touched a lot of really great topics, especially on how to deal with what we're going through right now in this unprecedented time, the stages of grief and things like that. And I wanted to now touch on how we find meaning. What are some examples of finding meaning?
Ah, oh, there are really several that have been really helpful when I'm talking to a bunch of different clients. So the first one that comes to mind was just really having time to reevaluate habits, right? So our life really caught a rhythm, right, and naturally, and
Mhm.
then it got halted. So we tried to bring as much of our life into this time, but there was so much dysfunction around it by the jolting of having the shelter in place order. What I found that as people were going through their stages of grief, they really were able to say, wow, had I not gone through this, I wouldn't have had time to recognize this habit that I actually want to stop. Or I had a chance to reevaluate my goals. My goals weren't as authentic. I set them a year or two ago, and I was working towards them, and I realized I just got caught up in the wind of it all. And I don't want that. I want this other thing.
Mhm.
So that's been really beautiful. It's been a chance to sort of realign your life. But so we're thinking, we're a lot of us who are staying at home have had a chance to have really great insight into our relationships.
Yeah.
We've been able to see parents who have not had the chance to split care and homeschooling. It's really quite beautiful to see someone homeschool well. And you're like, wow, I didn't think this was here. And also seeing the care that can get put into, are you okay? I'm okay. They're okay. We
Yeah.
don't have those temperature checks. We're doing our daily due with our businesses, with our companies, and we're checking in with each other. And we're realizing, wow, I never felt loved by this person this way. And had we not gone through this, I wouldn't have seen that. I
Mhm.
wouldn't have seen that commitment to keep us all okay and stable. And I love that. So
Mhm.
many of us who have, the love, like, excuse me, the love languages, there, one of them is acts of service. So if we're busy out and about in our work all day, we have an opportunity to do that at home. And that realization for people is, I didn't realize the acts of service were so big for me, and seeing us work together. Any other insight is valuable as well. So not just these, but this is some of the conversations I've been having.
That's so good.
Yeah,
So
I've learned about people really feeling a new appreciation for their health and their safety. So I always recommend mindfulness exercises and tapping into what you're grateful for. And through that, people have said, I don't think I realized how grateful I was for my health. I think I took it as a standard and an expectation. And
mm,
now I am so grateful um, to, to, to be able to rely on my body right now.
mhm.
And I feel very safe in this home. I never thought, I mean, when I purchased it or when I decided to rent this place, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about ultimate safety of crime. But I feel my home feels so much more safe to me than it ever did
Mhm.
before. Because I was coming, I was going, there were social events, there was work. So that's been really great. Um, you know, we talked about the insight with families, but I'm also thinking that people are just saying, I'm just happy to be around them. I know we won't get this time again in the way that life is to come. Um, but if my kids are getting along better, they're also not getting along, but they're getting along better. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just been sweet. There's a nighttime routine that's different,
Hmm.
right? Because we're not hustling and bustling to get up so early.
Right. I mean, we do that though in
So it's
marriage.
been really sweet.
Yeah. In marriages and in families, we do that. We take each other for granted, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think another appreciation and insight I've had is the appreciation that parents are getting for teachers. You
Yes.
know, I've spoken, my
Yeah.
kids are all grown, but I've spoken to people that are like, I don't know math, you know? And they're like, how does my teacher do this? I want the kids to the house. And I start laughing and I'm like, and those are your kids. You're supposed to love them.
Yes. When did multiplication change?
Yeah, exactly. And people are like, I'm a parent, not a teacher. But I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? It shows you the appreciation, right, for hard working teachers that a lot of people
Yes.
don't really recognize or they take them for granted, you know? And I
Yes.
think now you're stuck at home with your kid who has homework to do via Zoom or whatever, and you're like, holy cow, I forgot history, or I forgot this, or I forgot that. And, you know, it makes you appreciate other people, nurses, you know, and what they've been going through, and you know they're putting
100%.
their selves on the line all the time. So I think it's giving us a different perspective on different people's, you know, jobs and work. You know, like for instance, right now, one of the essential working class is really blue collar workers, right? So landscapers, construction workers, restaurant people, those, you know, those people are essential right now. And I'm like, that is fantastic, right? Because
Yes.
it's showing the world and it's showing everyone, the government and everybody, that these people are needed, they are
Yes.
important, they help the world run, you know. And so that's given me a lot of insight in that aspect, you know.
Oh,
um
absolutely.
it's and yeah, families is big, and but if we look outside of our family, then we start to see how it's affecting, you know, everybody in different ways, and how all
Right.
the insight that we should have more appreciation for people in the service industry, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, it's been great.
Have you heard of that Mr. Rogers quote where I don't know it verbatim, but the sentiment is when something bad happens, look for the people who are trying to make it better, right? There's something about people who are responding. And that came to mind, the sentiment came to mind as you were talking. It's like, you know, we're going through something tough, but finding meaning we know is part of the process.
Yeah,
Let's look for outside of our part here. Let's look at the greater whole.
yeah. Well,
Who's
those people
helping?
will start to feel validated, right? They'll start to
Absolutely.
feel validated, and validation is a huge thing,
Yeah,
you know. And I know that we talked about wanted to talk to you about validation, you know, and validation is hard. Self-validation is hard, you
hmm
know, for people to experience that. And I wanted to talk to you about resilience, heavy emotions, hurting, you know, how do we continue on, that kind of stuff. So can we touch on that?
of course. You know, I always like to bring to attention a little bit of why validation is hard. I think we spend a lot of our life justifying and
Mm,
comparing, and that's one of the major components of uh, why validation is as hard as it is. But that's part of the process of therapy, is to be able to see that there's no need to compare. There's no value truly in it. And there's no value in justifying yourself to anyone, including yourself. It's looking in and tapping into understanding. And how does that fit into resiliency? We want to think about resiliency. I always like to compare it to courage. Courage looks like you're not experiencing fear. Resilience looks like you're not experiencing this pandemic as hard. But as you said, really feeling heavy emotions, really feeling as though I'm not as good at this as I thought I would be. Working from home's harder. Teaching my kids harder than I thought, or I am experiencing just emotional pain, whatever that is, but continuing on in and of itself is the resilience. So your choice to go through the day is resilience. And I wanted to note that, define that, so that you can say that to yourself, and that experience of that, you can say that to someone who needs to hear it, right? Like, you're doing it. That in and of itself takes strength.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
hearing that.
Yeah,
And
that's good. Go ahead.
I was thinking about I just wanted to say something for the comparing piece, which was comparing grief, comparing stages of grief, and comparing what we are grieving.
Mm-hmm.
Does no good for
Doesn't
anyone.
good. It really doesn't. It doesn't make it makes you irritated,
Yes.
as the person judging.
Yes.
And it makes that person feel unvalidated when you do that. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
And I sometimes have to catch myself in that myself.
Absolutely.
I always think of myself as a tough cookie, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes because of that, I don't understand all the stages of grieving. So a lot of what you're saying is going to really resonate with me, because I want to be more empathetic and compassionate, towards what people are going through. And to and sometimes I'm just like, this is what it is. What's the problem? I don't, why, what's the problem?
You're like, I live in acceptance. What?
Yeah.
Like, I flow through all of them.
Yeah, it's really no, this has really been helpful, because I think, there's a lot of people like me who are just like go-getters and tough, and they think tough and all that kind of stuff, right? But we also have people that we love that aren't that, and or aren't that in that place right now, and we should be a little bit more compassionate about that. And it's true. That's a very good point. And also, you had said prior about listening without judging.
Right. I think you just made a perfect point to that.
Yeah, because I tend to, and it's like that, like I just feel like, oh, really? I mean, really, that's what we're doing now, I'm like, Nina, stop.
Oh, yes. It's so true. It's so funny because I lovingly refer to myself as a delicate flower. And I'm just like, I feel that.
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, what are you talking about? You've never gone through anything. Yeah, but I get what they're going through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd be like, really? So you're just here. Yeah. So what's going on right now?
I thought, chance. Nina, he's trying.
Oh,
Is he trying though?
that's so funny. Oh my gosh. My husband is more on the emotional side, and he's more of the person to like express that, he goes, oh, I'm not feeling well today. I'm feeling a little depressed. I'm feeling a little anxious, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like,
right.
Okay, I understand why, we're good, that kind of thing. And I have learned throughout the years to stop doing that, but it's just something in me. I think it's that, when you're going through a lot in life, sometimes you build up these walls where, wait a minute, that's vulnerability, even though it's not just vulnerability, it's actually being authentic and being true to what you're feeling, as opposed to hiding it so that you're tough.
Yes.
Yeah,
and here's my validating both sides, but truthfully, to understand that was important for you.
Yeah.
It's important for you to see the world in a way where no matter what gets taken away from me, I'm good and I can carry on. And that's something that you had to have learned for whatever has happened beforehand in order for you to get where you've gotten. And your husband's side of viewing is, if he doesn't connect with his emotions, he will deplete himself.
Right.
So it's literally being the validation of everything. I'm like, I can see that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn that, to be honest, a little bit more, and it's been good. This isolation has been good, because we've had really good conversations that normally,
that's great.
How was work? Oh, how was work? Oh, how was work? Oh, how was work? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this. Well, why are you feeling that? Like, that's what we're going through now, which I like,
It's awesome.
Back to your point, right? So connecting with families, it's really important. And I wanted to talk to you about how do we inform ourselves? And this was really a good point. You brought this up before. How do we inform ourselves without becoming overwhelmed? Because that is
right.
That's tricky,
It
right?
is. Our news system at this point in time, 2020, they understand so much about psychology. They understand how to get you looped into and addicted to listening to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is just how it is, right? So I have recommended limiting your news sources.
Yeah.
And two that I highly recommend are the CDC
What's that one?
and the CDC, so Center for Disease
Yep.
Control, and WHO, World Health Organization. They have the information, they have your need to know information. So when do you decide to do so? You decide when, after you've watched the news, you've carried the sentiment that you felt emotionally, and it's disrupting the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not stopping you, but it played again. You're like, oh, I'm thinking about what I heard again. I'm
Yeah.
replaying it. I'm gonna need a break. I'm gonna need a break for it for a little while.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly encouraging people, we do not require daily updates. It's fantastic that it's available to us. At any point in time, should you decide that you need an update, there will be one available to you.
That's very powerful. Just saying that again, right? We do not require a daily update. Most people think that they do. Like they can't live their life
Yes.
without it daily. Yeah, that's
Yes.
good. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that we like emphasize that. So I think hopefully we released a few people
Yeah.
and saying that it was a feeling. It was a feeling of full security. It wasn't a requirement at all. And if you decide to take a step back completely, take all your notifications off, decide you're only going to watch TV through the apps and things like that. You're not going to turn on your cable for a certain amount of days, and so you know when you're really rejuvenated. You can let someone know, someone that you trust, that would say, if there's something important that would be affecting me, that I need to know, could you tell me I'm taking a break from the news?
It's good.
And you explain to them that that's what you're doing, and so that way you know, should you need to be informed, you will. And it does not have to be via cable
Yeah.
news.
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, I stopped watching the news about a month ago
Wow.
uh,
Yeah.
because the anxiety was getting pretty bad. So,
Yes.
I'll just, I don't know, I'll tell Alexa what's the update for today, and she'll give me an
Perfect.
update. She reads down just the most important things and I'm done. And it
Perfect.
literally takes 5 minutes.
Yes.
But I just feel like it was overwhelming. I was getting anxiety. I was getting worried. I was getting pissed. I was going through the grieving part of it.
Now
Because,
that you know those words.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like
Knowledge is
true.
power.
Knowledge is power. And how do you inform yourselves without becoming overwhelmed? And you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really a good tip, though, to tell someone you trust to make sure they keep you updated,
Yeah.
so you don't have to be in it all day. That's pretty good. That's a good one.
Right.
You can snatch that one up for me.
Yes. Great. Great.
So, how do we gain wisdom and look for what is in our control? What can we do to gain wisdom to grab onto things that are in our control, right? Because honestly, COVID is not in our control, right? So, but the things that we can do are, right?
Yeah.
So how do we have wisdom in this? How do we
Yeah.
gain
I always think about the serenity prayer when I think of control. It's the wisdom to know the difference,
yeah.
right? I always think about that. It's such a powerful prayer, and sentiment has helped so many people. So I say, let's set our expectations appropriately. We are all using more tech than we normally do in our home, right? If we're in an industry or in a company, we have someone we can turn to for help. Um, find out if there are any local resources. There is a local resource that's wonderful in Fairfield County. It's called Genius on the Go. So if you have a lot of Apple products, they can help you with that. And it's kind of like tech help IT for your family, which has been really wonderful. But also, if you're working, just expect, okay, something's going to happen today. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know what glitch will happen. However, I know what I can do is set everything up accordingly. And then I just got to let it roll from there.
Yeah.
Everyone is on your block. If you live in an apartment building, more people are home using the internet. This is a physical thing, right? It's not just ultimately available. It can be overly taxed. So we want to think about that. Oh, let's be wise about this. Okay, there will be an issue here.
Yeah.
What can we do to address? Okay, so that's tech. I'm thinking about what's in our control, the essential needs of our family,
Mhm.
right? We may not be able to keep everyone calm, cool, and collected, kids not fighting, not irritating us. We may slip and say something. Perfection is, it's overrated. It's, even if you do it once, you're not going to do it always.
Right.
So
Right.
thinking about those sorts of things, what can we prep for? Okay, I have enough food for the day. Everyone's set up. I'm going to deal with what happens as the day goes around, goes on. And I'm thinking, what can you do for the day? One of the things I've been really suggesting is to try no more than five, to accomplish no more than five things. If you accomplish 10, you did, um, or you didn't, right?
Right.
The idea is, one of the things I want to stay away from is like a hierarchy of importance or needs and wants. I've just been saying, let's call it an A and a B list.
Mm-hmm.
2 on the A, you'll tackle those first. 3 on the B. That's it. And it's just in order in which you'll go about it. 5 things, set the agenda for the day before, understanding that it's just A and B. It's not I needed to get this done and it didn't get done, and I have a feeling about that. When we don't get our needs done for the day, no one feels good about that,
Right.
right? It's going to set us up for something like that. And I like that because it gives us an opportunity to understand that there are going to be different points in the day that are going to lead to the balance.
Mm-hmm.
So what that looks like is essentially the kids are taken care of. Okay, I've got that. I've done what I needed to for work, this goal, this particular habit that I'm working on. And I have for my cleaning that needs to get done to keep the house in order because we're all in it and messing it up. And then I have a moment in time in which I'm just doing some self-care. They don't have to be equally balanced. It's the moment, what's most important right here. And that's just really because I want us to be expectant of change, expectant of adapting,
Okay.
and less looking forward to a perfect day, like any person on social media that's trying to portray as if they've accomplished that.
Right. Right. That's good. That's good. So it's like really just kind of finding a routine then, and finding
Yes,
balance, and prioritizing, right? But not beating
absolutely.
yourself up about it either. So that's good. Just getting things done, but not the perfection part.
Right.
Right? That's good. That's good. Do you have tips then? Because we're trying to find a new way to connect to our family, to connect to our friends, to connect to, the world, right? Being that we can't go to social events and, things like that. So do you have tips on how we can connect with others during these times?
Yeah, I want to bring to attention the importance of laughter. We all remember Robin Williams. He did a really great movie. He was Patch Adams. He would go as
Oh
this sort of
yeah.
a clown into a children's hospital where these children had really very serious illnesses. I
Mhm.
just love to bring that to attention to people to remember. Did you laugh today?
Yeah.
Like, is everything so serious that you can't have a moment of laughter, right? So that goes speaks to the balance in moments again.
Mhm.
So I say let's do something that can bring about that laughter on purpose, right? We have control in that way. So some of the funny things that I've been telling adults is, your children are on TikTok and they're doing a whole bunch of dances. Do one with them.
Right, right,
And they've come back, they've shown me these dances. It's hilarious.
right.
It's bonding.
Right.
It's a memory. The previous to this this shelter in place moment, these kids were doing this by themselves. Social media was away from my parents type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to
Sure.
be on it anyway. So how can we connect with our teens that want to be in their room doing the social media thing? Get and just so you know, for their friends, they love seeing you on there too. They love seeing the parents doing the
I've seen a lot
dance.
of those coming out actually, with fathers and daughters dancing the prom dance because they didn't get a prom. Such cool moments,
Beautiful.
such cool moments. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one. So TikTok is one. Dancing with your close friends, that's cool. What
Yeah.
else? What else you got?
I wanna also talk about, so we're talking about this all, and we're calling to mind that people are going through grief, right? We're calling to mind that people are overwhelmed, people are fatigued, people are restless. And sometimes when we're connecting to others, it feels like we're giving and we may not have. So I always like to say, you don't need to have the words or the comfort. You can send something that's already preset, depending on who you are as a person. An emoji sometimes is just enough. They've
Yeah.
got an emoji that can look like any person. You just send the hi, right? You send the one that makes sense for you. I have a girlfriend that sends me the unicorn one, and I'm like, I get it. You don't have much, but like the unicorn, right? It can be something so simple. You see a meme that's hilariously accurate for this other person, send that, right? You don't need to wish them the best and have this beautiful thing. Quotes that you see, prayers that you see, I just like to say that, so connecting can be easy and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to deplete us, but it's important.
Yeah. And then you're right. I mean, I've been receiving a lot of like little emojis and little videos, funny, hilarious videos and stuff like that. And they don't even say a word. They just send it, you know.
Right.
I
No
start cracking
introduction,
up.
no
Exactly.
explanation.
But you know the person and you know their humor, so you get it, type of thing. It's really been it's been a really nice moment actually, to like and not have to talk. Sometimes you don't want to be honest. You don't
Right.
want to answer the phone and you don't want to be on the computer. And it's been nice for me and my husband, just kind of like we got into another series on Netflix or something, but then we're like cracking up laughing or we're talking about
Yes.
it or whatever. So
Yes.
that's been good. Reading a book is probably a good idea now too, right? Reading a nice book that you've been wanting to read forever and never have the time.
Right.
It's a good time to do it. It's a good time.
This
Um,
is perfect time.
yeah, isn't it?
Great
I think
points.
so too. I wanted you to finish us off with talking about introverting with intention because I love that idea.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to touch on a few things for introverting, but with intention.
Yeah. I love phrasing it this way and the way you phrased it, because many of us identify as extroverts. I don't, but they're like, oh, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many ways. So one is breath work, and I think that that covers a lot, in general. But so I'll share a few really quickly. One is just taking a moment for yourself. If any parent knows what it's like to go in the bathroom and you don't even have to go. You're going into the bathroom. Right? It's the
Yeah.
only place that you have. Right?
Yeah.
That even that is introverting with intention. But sometimes we don't know what to do. We're in there and now we've got the space and no one's here, and you're just like, okay. So what to do is to do that breath work. You can do box breathing, right? What I like to do is envision a box kind of in front of me, laid out completely. And this is breathing that they teach Navy SEALs, which is incredible, right? So to get them calm enough to continue on with the mission, and it's envisioning a box in front of you. So you're going to breathe in, and that's going to be one of the lines, right? And you're going to pause as you go to the next one. You'll breathe out, and then you'll pause before you breathe in again. What you can do is bring your eyesight to its nearsightedness as opposed to farsighted, and envisioning that box. You can even do it with your fingers, and it just sinks everything. It can bring you back to that wisdom that we talked about, what's in your control. Um, there are there are other things where you can scan, you can breathe, and intentionally you can make your field of vision in front of you kind of into quadrants. And you just breathe and bring your eyes, right? You're using your nearsightedness. I'm going to look at you farther. But you bring your eyes kind of around the box also. And you just check in with your body sensations, just see where does that help me, along the way? Where does my gaze most comfortable? A lot of us have recognized, oh, when I'm telling a story, my eyes look over here, my eyes look over there. So if we understand that our eyes are connected with what we're thinking and how we're experiencing and communicating, if you're doing it introverting, you're probably not saying anything out loud, but there's a self-dialogue always going on. So gaze to the place that feels most relieving. has the least amount of body sensations. It's really a beautiful connection that we can have with our body and our breath. You can just tap into your five senses. You know, that's part of just taking a moment, becoming very present. What do I see, hear, smell, taste, feel? Is this room cold, right? Just those sorts of sentiments. You can do that. I want you to look in curiously, kind of the way that we've talked about. We've talked about so many things that feel like they're normal, but they're actually an indicator for you. They're informing you of how you feel, that you need that self-care. You are capable. If you have capable, you're not in the bathroom, right? You're actually taking this moment. You have some time to yourself and you're wondering, what can I do? Journal. So you can journal about anything. I tell people, you don't know where to start, journal about your name. Talk to yourself about it. You tell everyone about it, but what do you think about it? What has that experience been like for you? Do you have a nickname, and why'd you choose it? What's the relationship between your nickname and your full name? You can journal about anything that you want. It's fascinating. All you have to do is be curious. And then you can, one of the things you mentioned earlier is gratitude. Gratitude will take you through the stages of grief well, right? And then also you can do some sort of slow stretching. Cautious, if you have any injuries, don't just go on YouTube and do whatever this person who probably has a passion for it is doing. Slow, think of gym class. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you want to get fancy, do it. But just take that time. You don't have to have an entire practice if you just need, you just feel your body weighed down.
Right.
So those are some of the things I talk about when I'm saying introvert with intention.
Yeah, and that's really great. And that's I didn't know about the box. You know, that's actually a great tool, right? Because sometimes if you're going through anxiety, I'm sure that's very helpful because now you're concentrating on something else too.
Yes. We didn't touch on this, and this isn't what this is for, but if anyone here has ever been through a panic attack or knows someone who goes through that, that is a regulating thing. It will be hard for that person, but share that information with them. Say, I heard about this, and they connected it to panic attacks. Practice it and see if it works for you. Just that's all you have to share. Don't have to give unsolicited advice.
Yeah. Well, Elena, I am really grateful that you took the time to talk to us today, really. You gave us amazing information here and tips and things that we can really think about during this time. And that was the purpose of the show, you know, is to just have people understand that they are not alone, that there is a process that you're going through and that there are others going through it as well. And people like me who think we're tough cookies need to be a little bit more sensitive to that and understanding. But, you know, and also the creativity of doing other things, right? So the box breathing, but the TikTok, you know, maybe calling a friend and saying, listen, I can't be on this news thing all the time. So if there's anything important, get back to me. Those type of things are like vital. And things that we don't really think about, but I think we're going to have to use a lot of it, especially because I think, you know, I think that this staying indoor thing will be here for at least another 6 weeks or so. And that could be very trying for a lot of people, you know? So having a lot of this is really important. Now, I did have a question for you. Are you taking clients during this time?
We are taking clients and they're all virtual at this point. So it'll look just like this.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll see me here.
Yeah. Well,
we are. And also
this is what we would be doing face to face as well, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. Also what? Go ahead.
And also Chris is taking other clients. So he's the coaching part of this practice. So I wanted to really make sure that we understand who would you call for. So if you know where your normal is and you feel like this pandemic has really brought you a step behind, or not quite there, I'll be able to help you get you right back to normal. Chris is going to say he's going to be incredibly valuable when you've taken this point, you feel, I want to use this time to my advantage. I have it, I have a goal, I have a habit I want to kick, and I know that I can use this time really well. He's going to take you from your normal to reaching another point of your potential, really optimizing this time for you. We're both taking clients at this moment. Our schedules are incredibly flexible. So we're really willing to work with anyone who's saying, I'm looking for help in either area.
Good. It's worth it. You're worth it. Both of you are amazing people, really.
Thank you.
And I know that your website is
Coaching and Counseling CT.
Oh, coachingandcounselingct.com.
Perfect.
Coachingandcounselingct.com. Do you want to give us your contact info?
Sure. You can call me or text me directly also. That's 845-237-2872. Or you can email me. You can see it right there on the bottom of Zoom. My name is Elena, and it's spelled ELENA. And that would be at coachingandcounselingct.com. I would love to help you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on this show. Thank you for taking the time to do this. You are such a professional, and this was really a fantastic interview. So thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for watching. I miss being in the studio, but this is fun too. This is Nina Perez at Straight Talk No Sugar Addict. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click like, and we will see you again shortly. Be kind and polite and loving to one another. Be patient, and let's do this together well. Have a good day.